Garden, and welcome to another reading lesson. We have so many exciting things happening today, and let me first tell you about what we're going to start to do. We are starting a brand new module learning all about community helpers, people in your community that help you every day. And you have also begun to learn about Black History Month. Your teachers have been sharing all kinds of texts with you and information about inspirational Black leaders. And we are going to learn about inspirational Black leaders who are community helpers. So, we're going to start first by talking about a woman named Helena R Goins. And this is our inspirational spotlight today. She was Albany's first African American teacher. So she was the very first teacher in Albany, New York, and that's where some of you live. That's where we go to school. That's where our kids' school is. And she was the very first African American teacher. She started teaching in Albany district 2 decades ago. And 2 decades ago, that means it was a long, long time ago. It was in 1895. A long time ago. They worked together. She worked together with some other school district staff. And a really exciting detail about Helena is she lived on many different streets in Arbor Hill that surrounded our very own hit school. And she also went to Albany High School. It's so exciting, and she's such an inspiration because she was the first African American teacher, and we know that she inspired to let all African Americans know that when you strive for what you want, you can become anything you want to be. And she did that, and she was a teacher. Also want to share Harriet Lewis Van Runken. She was Albany's very first African American social worker. She began teaching in 1915, which was a long, long time ago. And she was the very first social worker in Albany. Social worker is someone who helps students just like you work in their community and if they need someone to talk to and helps families. So we have been able to learn about two inspirational spotlights that were in Albany, New York, right where some of you live. So let's jump in to what we're beginning to talk about today that will help us better understand about our two inspirational spotlights, who was a teacher and a social worker. So today we're going to dive in to helpers in my community. So this text is called Helpers in My Community. A community is a place where a group of people live. What do you know about our community, the place where you live? Your teacher's going to pause the video and you're going to talk about the community where you live. You might talk about it has schools, it has buildings, it has parks, there might be a lot of stores. And today, our reading thinking job is to ask questions about key details in this text. We know when we ask questions, there's important question words we need to use. Who, what, where, when, and how. In an earlier lesson, we practiced asking questions about the text Rap-a-Tap-Tap. And today, we're going to practice again using helpers in my community so that we can learn more about a new topic. Remember to start each question with a question word: who, what, where, when, why, and how. We're going to use these question words to find those key details. We've been talking about key details all year long. They're the most important parts of the story. So we'll ask those question words and we will find out the key details that help us better understand about community helpers and also help us better understand why our two inspirational spotlights wanted to be teachers and social workers. Before we dive into the text, Helpers in my community. Let's go over our reading thinking steps to get to our reading thinking job of I can ask questions about key details in a text. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to ask ourselves, what do you wonder about this text? So your teacher's going to pause the video and you guys are going to just take a minute to think about, what do you wonder about this text? So take a minute and think about, what do you wonder about this text by just looking at the cover. You might have wondered, what is a helper? What is a community? Who are those people on the cover? So let's dive into the rest of our reading thinking steps, and then we'll hear about your wonders. Our wonders. Step 2 will be asking a question about it. Who, what, where, when, why, or even how. And then step 3 is going to be remembering your question as you reread to find those answers. So let's waste no more time and listen to the text, Helpers in My Community. Helpers in My Community by Bobby Kalman. What is a community? A community is a place where many people live and work together. Community helpers are people who make communities cleaner, safer, and better. Who are the helpers in your community? Some community helpers are builders, doctors, teachers, and librarians. All these people help you. Builders and roads. Communities need buildings where people can live or work. Builders build houses, offices, schools, and stores. They also build roads and bridges. Builders use these machines to do their work: bulldozer, a digger, cement mixer, and a crane. Electricity and water. People in a community need electricity. Lights, computers, television sets, and many other things cannot work without it. Electricians are people who make sure that communities have the electricity they need. People need clean water in their homes. They drink water and use it to have baths and to wash their clothes. Plumbers have community helpers who put in the pipes that carry the water to our homes. Teachers and librarians. Teachers make learning fun and exciting. They teach us how to read and write. They teach us math, science, and social studies. Librarians help us find the books we need. Some librarians work in schools. Some librarians work in community libraries. Other school helpers. Some children walk to school. Crossing guards make sure the children cross the road safely. School bus drivers drive some children from home to school. School nurses take care of children who are sick at school. Principals make sure that everyone follows the rules, school rules. Caretakers clean schools and fix things. Who are your school helpers? Are they a school nurse and a principal? Medical helpers. Medical helpers are doctors, nurses, and other people who keep us healthy. Some medical helpers work in offices. Others work in hospitals. Dentists are doctors who care for our teeth. They check our teeth and fix them. They teach us how to have healthy mouths. Emergency helpers. Emergencies are dangerous things that happen suddenly. Emergency workers help find people and take them away from danger. Paramedics bring sick or hurt people to hospitals. They take them to hospitals quickly in ambulances. They care for the people until they arrive at the hospital. Firefighters. Firefighters fight fires in buildings. They also fight forest fires. They rescue people and animals. They risk their lives to help others. Firefighters drive big trucks to fires. Police officers.
Police officers protect people in their community. They make sure that people do not break the law. They help people who are in trouble. Police officers talk to children about how to be safe in their community. Kind helpers. Volunteers are kind people who help other people. They do not get paid for their work, but their jobs are very important. You can be a volunteer too. You can help the earth by planting trees or picking up trash. How else could you help? Words to know and the index of this text. Builders, electricians, emergency helpers, firefighters, medical helpers, plumbers, police officers, school helpers, volunteers.
Let's start with the first question the text asks us. What is a community? Your teacher's going to pause the video and you guys are going to look back in the text and answer this question. What is a community? A community is a particular area where a group of people live. In the text, we learned that it's where many people live and work together. So community helpers are people who work in the community to help our communities be clean, safe, and better. So who are some helpers in your community that you learned about? Your teacher's going to pause the video. In this text, we learned about builders, doctors, teachers, librarians, and there's even so many more that we might have not heard about in the text. But your teacher might give you time to talk about later. But let's dive into the community helpers we learned in this text. We're first going to start with our electricity and water page. What questions can you ask about this page? Using the question words chart, your teacher's going to pause the video and you are going to come up with questions you could ask about this page. Some questions you might have come up with are, what are the electricians doing in the picture? What things in our home use electricity? What do electricians do? We can ask all of these questions and go back on the page and reread for the answers. But today, we're just asking questions. Your teacher might pause the video and review the questions you asked to find the answers. Let's look at teachers and librarians. What questions can you ask about these pages? Your teacher's going to pause the video. Some questions you might have come up with are, what do teachers teach? What do librarians help us with? Where do teachers and librarians work? Can I go to a library? Those are some questions you may have come up with, and you may have come up with other questions. Today, our reading thinking job is just asking questions, but your teacher might pause the video and review your questions with answers. Remember, when we're asking questions, we always want to use question words: who, what, where, when, why, and how. Let's look at the pages about other school helpers. What questions can you ask about these pages? Your teacher is going to pause the video. You might have come up with are, who are school helpers? Why do we need crossing guards? Who are your school helpers? Now let's take a look at our firefighters page. Your teacher's going to pause the video and you guys are going to come up with what questions you can ask about these pages. Some questions you might have come up with are, what do firefighters do when they get into the buildings? How do they rescue people and animals? Today in Seesaw, you're going to be taking a look at builders and roads. We just spent some time using our question words who, what, where, when, why, and how to ask questions about pages all about our community helpers. We'll spend some more time in the future lessons answering some of those questions. But in Seesaw, you're going to be listening to the pages by tapping on the video and then tapping the mic and asking your own questions of the pages. Until next time, bye, Kipsters.